So today, again, we're going to go through LO4. If you have any doubts and you feel I'm going quick, need me to slow down or explain something again, happy to do that. Stop me immediately and I'll do it. So yeah, in LO4 today, we're going to basically discuss how developing HR solutions for an organization employee relation approach and the practices in order to improve performance. So basically, we are looking at performance improvement and how to do it. We spoke about this briefly in the previous lecture as well, that, there can be different PDPs or plans that can come up. There's something known as PIP as well. PIP means performance improvement plan and PDP means performance development plan. So some organizations use PIP, some use PDP, pretty all right. But what essentially performance improvement would mean is not just improving an individual employees or associates performance, but also looking at improving, a business process or a business function, or basically anything, any procedure that you're going to look at improvement at to basically look at the overall development of the organization. So that would mean essentially improving performance. We would focus on employee performance, or the examples I would give would vary actually. But when you look at performance, not just narrow it down to employee performance, look at the overall perspective as well. So today we're going to quickly go through, this is again a shorter presentation and would quickly get through actually. So, how you're analyzing how to approach employee relations. So there are so many ER issues that come up with. So how do you manage them? And it also depends on the style of management that you're looking at doing that. So as I mentioned in the lectures previously, some managers would have, a dictatorship style that whatever he's saying or whatever she's saying, that's going to happen. They don't take suggestions. Suggestions aren't really welcome. They stick to what they think is right. Whereas some managers would actually have a very relaxed approach. They listen to their associates. They need and want feedback from them because they feel that, if employees can improve or get better in their performance, then even they can. Because every day for a manager as well, it's a learning experience, right? So managerial style is important, and how different ER issues are managed or handled through HR and overall as well is really important. So how different choices in strategy. So there can be different strategies that you take in conflict, or even we spoke about conflict or manage business in. So different business strategies and obviously ER strategies, how make a difference in the overall performance of an associate. So if the organization or the HR usually has a relaxed policy and they're like, all right, you probably made a mistake. We understand. We hope you don't do this again, and lets you off. I think associates are going to be like, okay, you know what? My company actually values me. And even though I made a mistake, I was not terminated immediately. I was given a chance. I need to do better in the second chance. So every choice makes a very important decision in basically ER. And again, how different practices will help in the growth of the business and performance, and how positive ER is always beneficial as opposed to negative ER, in the sense, if an associate's not performing to the mark that, you would expect them to perform, you need to recognize that they're still trying their best. They probably have some issues going on. Talk to them, positively motivate them, and encourage them to do better. If the organization has an approach wherein even if someone's trying to do something, or if, say, there is, I'll give an example actually. There is a process wherein someone says we need to follow these 10 steps to make sure that this process is done, and you come up with a suggestion and you're like, you know what, we can actually narrow this down. Instead of having, looking at 10 different steps, we can actually narrow it down to 6, and that's going to save us time, effort, energy. Your manager would probably be like, you know what, if in a positive ER, manager would be like, you know what, let's look at this approach. Let's probably do a trial run. Let's try it on a smaller scale first before we make it like a proper process. And, that's a positive way of handling it. The negative way would be, oh, why are you coming up with new suggestions? Stick to your job role. There's a process in place since the last 4 years. So I don't think, or I don't see us changing this just because you had a suggestion. That would be negative way to approach that. I have a quick little video that I wanted to show you guys. Just give me 1 second while I take that out. So we're looking at effective ways to increase employee productivity. And this is just a quick video that shows that. Let me play this for you. Again, if you can't listen or need me to increase the volume, just let me know.
Effective ways to increase employee productivity. At IFA, we've identified 6 of the most effective ways you can increase employee productivity. Why talk about productivity? Our high-tech tools might make us more efficient, but they can also make us more distractible. No one's taught how to deal with notification pop-ups in school. What gets measured gets managed. So at number 1, we need to establish a baseline. Avoid metrics that encourage busy work, like total hours spent at the office. Instead, track production of deliverables or revenue. Once you're tracking the right things, start pushing up those numbers with incentives for hard work, such as salary raises, commissions, bonuses, or just simple praise and appreciation. Effective communication is essential. Lay down the law for meetings, email usage, and use tools that streamline collaboration. Dull and cramped work environments reduce productivity. Allow employees to decorate their own space. Build a fun corner with games to unwind, and keep them topped up with free coffee. New hires take time to become productive, and orientation can disrupt the team. Streamline the process with a great e-learning platform like ours at IFA. Stay competitive by continually training your employees. Scale your knowledge across the company and use a platform like eFront Pro to effortlessly monitor your trainings. Don't delay. Start small to.
So this just lists down essentially kind of most of what we spoke. So we spoke about how we track performance. And I think I gave you an example in the previous lectures about, there was a way wherein they were tracking performance based on if, the keypad or everything is moving on or not. And if you were aimlessly scrolling, they wouldn't track that as performance. So again, that was a negative or a wrong approach, essentially, because you don't know if the associate is, on Google actually looking at different ways to get his job done better, right? So look at, correct ways of tracking matrices. You're looking at giving them proper praises or, bonus or promotion. And you're looking at giving them proper feedback and also making sure that, most offices have this, free coffee, tea. My office had a Starbucks machine. You could literally click a button and you can get any coffee or any Starbucks you like. Simple things make such a huge impact because, that was the thing that excited me in the morning. I'm like, you know what, I'm actually excited to go into work and get my first cup of coffee, which was such a small thing, but in my head, that just gave me some kind of satisfaction, right? So yeah, those are the different ways wherein you can improve performance of your associates. This again says how you measure key performance indicators. You look at practices and areas of potential conflict. Every manager has a different ideology and, management style. We spoke about that. Issues that arise out of the psychological contract, basically trust and expectation. So I think once you start working with someone for, say, 3-4 years, your manager has a different sense of trust with you, that, they do trust you when you're doing the specific tasks and they blindly will believe you, but they also expect a certain output out of you. And again, in your head, you don't want to disappoint your manager because you've been working for probably, say, 4 years now. And, your manager is doing a good job and always pushing you and giving you clear raises. So you're happy with your job. So you don't want to let them down, essentially. Then again, it's important for employees to be valued because if an associate feels that, even if I'm there or not there in this organization is not going to matter, in their head, they're going to be like, if I'm this disposable, why am I putting in so much hard work? Why am I pushing through? Why am I putting the extra hours? Instead, they would feel that, you know what, I'm just going to do the bare minimum and go. I don't know if you came across this video, but there was this really viral video that went through on Instagram. What it essentially said was, there was a guy talking to the HR team, and the HR team was saying that since the last 2 years, you're performing way out of expectation. You were doing wonders. Your performance level was at its peak. But since last year, your performance has been low. It's been quite average. What's been happening? To which he replied that last year, when I performed so well, and when it came, to a point where I was supposed to be given a bonus, I was given a 2% raise and told that, this is at par with the market rate. Everyone's going to get this, so I shouldn't ask for more. So his line was that that's why I made my performance, and I, as an employee, got at par with the market performance. And I started performing like every other associate and stopped, doing better, because what's going to why is it helpful? I'm anyways not going to be paid more. I'm not going to be properly given my bonus or, a praise. So I should just perform like every other associate or every other colleague in my team now. That's what I did. I came at par with the market, performance. And I felt he said something so important, because, if an associate is actually doing better and they are giving more output compared to the others and putting the extra hours and effort, they should be properly monetized for it, or at least been given like a proper praise or some other form of, encouragement for them to do better. Because if you don't do that, then in their head, they're going to be like, why am I trying and putting so much effort? Like, if it's not going to help me, right? Then again, there are different issues when it comes to employee involvement. So make sure that your associates are properly involved, especially associates that are remotely working. They are properly involved, and, they're given the attention that's required, and, they are in touch with the organization essentially. And then how to manage and handle individual grievances and disputes as a whole. So we spoke about the example in the last lecture, which said that it started from an individual grievance wherein she wasn't happy about her salary, and she wanted her salary to be benchmarked as per the market rate. But it went on to be such a big and collective dispute, because there were so many associates saying that this similar thing has happened to them, and they've spoken to the team members. They feel that they're being paid way less compared to the market rate. So that's how it starts. All right, so basically we're going to assess the ER approach and practices in an organization to develop HR solutions in order to improve performance. What does this essentially mean? Taking a steady and correct approach or practice is so important. So my previous manager used to say this line, that there is the correct way of doing it, and there is basically the organization's name, the organization's way of doing it. To which I used to respond, what do you mean? And she said that you'll understand. After working in the organization for a bit, I understood. So the correct way of resolving something, basically, if an associate was, let me give an example. In my head, that was a little unethical, but also worked really well for the organization, so that there was no other dispute that went, right? There was this associate which was not performing that great. She was quite aged, probably 60 or 58 or 60s. She had health issues and health conditions, so she was given flexible working arrangements. She was in the organization for probably 6-7 years now. The approach that my manager took was, we have to get rid of her, because she's not able to give the output that we want. Because at the same salary, if we put someone who is probably 20 or in their 30s, they're going to do a better job than her. Again, unethical, as I mentioned, because getting rid of someone just because of their age was not the correct approach, right? But again, you're looking at the profits in the organization and such huge MNCs. You're not looking at individuals. So yeah, had to get rid of her. That was the goal. How to get rid of her? We're going to manage that. Because she was so aged and because she had health conditions and was on a flexible working contract, she could have easily raised this to the union and gotten this so out of proportion and probably, gotten my manager or HR in trouble if she took that up with the union, essentially. Okay. So what my manager essentially did was had a first meeting with her, spoke to her about her performance, said that she's not performing well, indirectly told her that if you keep doing this, we're going to look at terminating you. All right. So that was clearly unethical because you are essentially scaring an associate that, you're putting a fear in their head that, oh, I feel that, it's not happening. I'm not doing that well. I'm going to be out of a job now. What's going to happen? That's a fear, right? Associates don't usually think of solutions wherein, oh, that's not fair. She can't say this. I can take it up with the union. Most of them don't know this. Anyways, she put that lady on a PDP, which is a personal development plan. Mind you, I felt that her performance was absolutely fine because this was one of a conflict between me and my manager as well, because I didn't really accept the way she handled it. But in the end, it benefited the organization. So obviously no one said anything. So yeah, what was I saying? We put her on a PDP. She was doing absolutely fine. She was actually doing at par with the other associates. The only problem my manager had was because she was so old, she was on a flexible working contract. That was basically causing her to work lesser hours than usual. So that was a loss to the business because someone who did not have a flexible working contract and came would perform basically the extra hours, and that would basically profit the organization, right? Again, I forgot to mention that section of the organization worked on headcount basis. So if you were given 10 associates, you had to have just 10 associates. You can't hire more. That's why it was important that we get the most out of all of our associates, right? So if she was on a flexible working contract, that just made it difficult for us to get the most out of her. Anyway, she was on a personal development plan. She did quite well. At the end of the plan, basically the manager told her that you haven't been performing that great. I would have to eventually terminate you and you would be left with nothing. But since you've been in the organization for 6-7 years, you are a loyal associate, you've been working so hard, and I personally have fought really hard with my managers to get this. Completely a lie. You're basically manipulating someone into making this decision. I am proposing something for you. You would be paid a bonus of, say, I don't remember the numbers, but 3 lakhs. And you would be given your salary for the next month, basically your notice period. You don't have to work. You can sit at home. You can take care of your health. I will pay you for the next month. I spoke to our managers for that. So there's a notice period, right? Your associate can work through the notice period, or you can just pay your associate if you want to get rid of them. So yeah, this was the offer that she was given. And my manager very tactfully said this line. I remember this because I was like, why? Like, that's unethical. She said that if you don't take this, then the next step would be probably termination and you would be left with nothing. So I would suggest you might as well just take the opportunity and get the extra cash. Why wouldn't anyone want the extra cash? If I terminate you, you would be left with nothing. But if you take this option, then you're going to be with so much money. And you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So essentially, in that 45-minute meeting, she made the lady feel so much fear and probably just put her in a position wherein she felt she didn't have options. But she clearly had options. She could take this with the union. She could take this higher. She could even take it to court and earn probably, I don't know, 30-40 lakhs, which would very easily happen. Okay. But because she put her in a position where, she felt fear, she signed the non-disclosure agreement on the spot. And once she signed that, obviously there's no going back, right? Once you sign that, you can't really do anything now because, you accepted everything that was offered to you. Now you can't really come back after a week or counter back. Usually when someone's signing a non-disclosure agreement, I always suggest this, that take a week, research yourself, speak to a couple of lawyers, and then come back. Don't just sign it on the spot out of fear, right? So yeah, that's the day I realized that there is an ethical way of doing things and there is the company's way of doing things. So yeah, that was just one of the cases that stayed in my head. Anyways, so I was talking about how different practices can make, difference in performance. And, there can be different approaches to each ER case that you're taking through. And each case can be managed in a different way. And also you need to understand that employees, if they're managed well, they're obviously going to perform better and they're going to feel positive about the job, right? Whereas if we spoke about this before, if they're in a place wherein they're not valued that well, then why would someone want to push through? And that's how employee relations make such a huge impact on the organization's performance. If you have motivated, hardworking associates and you're properly rewarding them, your organization is definitely going to do better and perform better. But if you're in in an organization that doesn't really value its associates, they make their associates feel that they're really indisposable, you clearly wouldn't want to push through more, right? If you're researching about something, you're just going to do your job and be like, you know what, why should I put in extra work? Why am I doing this? I can do the bare minimum and get away and get my salary and my paycheck every month. So why would I want to put the extra effort? So gonna discuss about how assessing employee relations approach and practices are going to make an impact. So unitarist and pluritarist perspective. Does anyone know what unitarist perspective is? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. So it basically, it's a perspective basically on employment, okay? And it stresses on how all the members of an organization as a union or as a group, they share similar interests. So similar interests meaning, come up with a specific goal in the end, or looking at organizations' profit, or, just a common goal that unites people together. So, you have different groups that come up, they're like, we're really passionate about the environment. We want to do a cleanup drive. That can be one of the common goals that come up. And, you can take it up as, in my head, I remember as union and plural. So union is coming, many people coming together and forming an alliance or union and looking at a common positive goal. Okay. Whereas a pluralist, perspective is basically how different parties have different goals in the organization. Okay. So, you might be looking at your personal development and growth. I might be looking at the organization's overall growth. Okay. Or I might be looking at how to save the organization from not going into court by managing ER cases well. And this approach usually would have more conflict because, I might feel that if we're doing a specific task, I'm looking at the end goal being performance growth, organizational growth, whereas you're looking at personal development, right? So this might have different conflicts when we're going through a process because, you might want to show that you're doing better, this is your work, whereas I'm going to be like, how does it matter, right? We're in a group. So this might create conflict as well, but again, can be resolved properly through proper conflict management. So every perspective has a different approach, right? In the union one, everyone's coming together towards a common goal. It probably has more harmony, lesser conflicts, whereas the other one probably more conflicts, more arguments, but at the same time, different opinions, So more suggestions, right? No one's always agreeing with everyone. They're always coming up with different suggestions and ideas like, what, we're looking at this, but you're looking at that. So as a group, how we can look at getting both done. That's how the different perspectives work. Then business strategy and employee relations. So how different business strategies affect employee relations. We spoke about this, and how proper and effective strategies in ER can achieve the business goals. So if you're pushing your associates, you're doing better, definitely going to achieve business goals. KPIs and data analysis. We spoke about how KPIs are really important to, about for employee relations as well. You're looking at different performance indicators in an associate's, time in the organization, and you're probably looking at their personal growth, but also looking at pushing them for them to do better. And how we can analyze data. I gave an example in my previous lectures about, remember we used to take data from associates who have stayed in the organization for more than 6 months. So as a stay interview, wherein you're getting their feedback on how they feel. Are they comfortable in the organization? Have they been familiar with every aspect of their job role? Do they need any other support in terms of, getting things done or support from their manager? That's how you get data and collect it to look at, an overall perspective on how things are going for an associate. So for example, if you collect data of 100 associates every month, after 2 months you probably put that in a readable data format. So probably like a presentation wherein it's showing why an associate feels more satisfied, and then present it to the high stakeholders or the leaders of the organization so that they know what they're doing right and they know what they're doing wrong as well. And also data can be, managed to look at employee engagement, if an associate is properly engaged in the organization or not. If some associate is working from home, how we can engage them more and, make them feel more connected to the organization. Whereas it can also help in resolve conflict. So you're looking at data from different conflicts and, you have an idea on why conflict arises. So now since you know why conflict arises, you can essentially look at making sure that in the next, while taking the approach again, you manage those things that cause the, conflict to arise in the first place and manage it in, in the start itself. Then absenteeism, how you can manage an employee who's being absent frequently. So someone's just falling sick every other month, they're coming up with a doctor's note, so you can't really say anything. Because if in the UK, essentially, if someone has a doctor's note, you can't question them on why were you sick. You are contractually supposed to give them paid sick leave. But yeah, I think it's still a restriction to the number of paid sick leave. So I think it's for the first 3.5, 4 months that an associate is sick or takes leave for, say, you take 7 days this month, 7 days next month. That way, you probably take 3 weeks next month. So for the first 3 months, it'll be paid. After that, it'll be reduced to 60% of your pay. So that's how it works over here. But yeah, how you can manage absenteeism. So if an employee is continuously falling absent, how you can support them, how you can talk to them and be like, maybe we can come up with a flexible working arrangement that would benefit you if your health is not good. Or, if you think that an associate is just falling sick, for the sake of it, you keep calling them, talking to them, telling them, how you can help them, coming up with solutions. If they still refuse to take it, then you can take it up with the union and explain them that why you're looking at terminating them, because they haven't been cooperating at all. And also data can help in staff turnover, right? Turnover rates can be down if things are managed in the start itself instead of pushing it through. And how different methods of collecting data. Definitely spoke about one example wherein you have different interviews. You have a Google form you can circulate. You can have, someone giving feedback and suggestions, your associate. So yeah, different ways. So how you can develop different HR solutions for performance improvement. Firstly, addressing issues arising from assessments. So there are different assessments that, associates are put through, right? You have different training programs and development plans that they put through so that they can get job satisfaction. But how we can adapt, or how HR practices can adapt, to make sure that we are addressing the employee engagement issues. So for example, you have different trainings listed down on your website. Every month you force your associates to do those trainings, but essentially they're not even looking at the training, just skipping through. They're just clicking skip. How you can manage that, because that would essentially in the long term have an employee engagement issue. Your associates aren't trained enough. They're not even looking at the slides clearly. When an issue actually arises, how would they know? So in my previous company's case, for example, it was a fintech company. I think I told you guys this. We used to get these suspicious emails. What these suspicious emails essentially were, you are going to be delivered a parcel today. Please click on this link to approve. In my mind, that was suspicious because I never ordered a parcel, all right? And why would that come on my personal email? So we used to report those emails, and basically the IT team used to tell us that, all right, congratulations, this was one of the trainings, you've been trained now that if you get suspicious emails, you don't have to click on the link, because if you click on the link, your data can be erased from your laptop, and you have sensitive numbers in your laptop and information that no one has to get hold of. Whereas people who used to click on the link, it used to take you to a page that used to say you have been phished, PHISH, which essentially was that, you've been fooled, and if in a case that this was a genuine scammer sending you an email, your data would have been taken. So once you click you've been phished, I think you will always be so alert with your emails, because there was a little joke emoji, like a joker there, and it's basically it was like a clown there and being like, how can you click this that way? So that's going to stay with associates in their head. So this is one of the different practices that you can adapt to get your employees engaged and also get them to train well. So now in the future, that maybe 90% of their associates would know what phishing is and what scam emails are or how they look like, suspicious emails. Enhancing communication and consultation. We spoke how, better communication between associates, probably one-on-one meetings with managers every weekly can enhance communication, and, open door policies wherein, if you can speak to a leader in the organization who is three levels above you, you feel that you've been listened to, you feel a sense of comfort that, I actually feel that this organization cares a lot about the associates. You have an open door policy, you can speak to anyone you want. So that really helps in performance improvement as well. Then strengthen the employee involvement and participation, how your associates essentially can look at being more engaged in the organization, right? You can come up with different ways in which you can do that. You might have monthly catch-ups or monthly fun activities that you can do with them, wherein that'll get them more engaged and involved within their team. And then essentially in the long run, that'll also help with more participation in decision making, because once you're working with the team members, probably 6 people, okay, you don't know them in the start, but once you start these informal activities, you start getting to know them so well that you're quite comfortable when it comes to decision making, processes, wherein you're comfortable enough to let them know that, what, this is what I feel, and I might not agree with your opinion, and you might not even take it in a bad way, because you've just built this sense of harmony amongst yourselves. And this can also work for cross-functional departments as well, wherein HR can organize different activities, monthly or probably 6 monthly activities with, say, the IT and the sales team, okay? And because it's important for you to know other members in the organization, and it's important for you how other departments in the organization function as well, so that you have a better idea as a whole how the organization works. Resolving individual grievances and collective disputes. We spoke about this, the example that I gave of the pay discrepancy and salary benchmarking, and how, you need to individually resolve them, but also if it can be a collective dispute and gets out of proportion. Then measuring the impact of HR solutions. So different HR solutions can definitely make a different impact on the organization's performance. Depends how HR approaches every little conflict, right? If you have a more relaxed way of approaching it, definitely employees feel that they're valued more. But as a negative, they might also feel that because I'm untouchable, like even if I did this, nothing really happened, so how does it matter if I do it again? Whereas a strict HR approach wherein you're like, you make one mistake and you're out, you're terminated, might have a sense of fear in the associates, might make them feel that, they can't really freely give their opinions, because if they say something wrong or do something wrong, they're probably going to be immediately removed, right? Then how HR can always look at continuous monitoring and evaluation. That's important because, I mentioned this a few lectures before. There are different HRBPs assigned to different departments. So there is one HR personnel who might be assigned to the marketing team, right? What essentially would happen is I report to the marketing team. If there is any issues with any associates in the marketing team that needs HR support, I'm going to help them out. But as an HR person, apart from doing that, I would also just have probably monthly or 2 monthly catch-ups with associates, just talking about their performance, or talking about if they are satisfied or if they have any issues with their manager, just as a friendly catch-up, if everything's fine or not. Okay, we spoke about different things over here. So how essentially all of them can help to improve employee performance. Then diverse and valid HR solutions that address issues and challenges to improve performance. So firstly, we're going to talk about, there are different solutions in addressing issues. I just gave an example. There can be a strict approach. There can be a relaxed approach. So approaching different challenges in an organization is important. And how HR plays a very important role in pushing, improvement in performance. So again, HRBPs have, monthly catch-ups with you. They tell you how you're doing. If you feel that, you cannot tell your manager that you want to perform better, but you can speak to the HR person. So an HR, the HRBP can actually come up with a PDP and tell you, you know what, we can keep this between us. I want you to do better. I want you to make sure that you're satisfied in your job role. So let's follow this development plan, or, if not a development plan, how can I help you to do better, right? Again, it comes with different challenges and issues. So you have, even though you're pushing your employees, there's still employees that are, not that engaged. So if someone's essentially working from home full time, they might not be that engaged compared to someone coming at work. Someone might actually have a skills gap. So you hired an associate because they were a good fit in the organization, but they did not have the skills to basically, not all the skills to do it. But you thought that, you know what, we can actually train this associate, and at the end, they might have all of the skills required. But even though you've been training the associate is just not able to learn that well, or be at par with the skills that are actually needed. Then what do you do? That is a challenge that comes up, right? Workplace conflicts, definitely a challenge. Turnover is a challenge. So it's important that these issues are addressed in the beginning, or these issues are addressed in a way that the overall performance can get better. So if you're having an employee that's really, not that engaged. So how do you look at ways wherein remote workers can be engaged? You maybe have, a virtual Teams meeting, or, a virtual activity, or a virtual game night. There are game nights that can happen. So that's different ways wherein you can just engage them more. So looking at different HR practices, and, how effective they are or not. So different recruitment and retention strategies. Again, HR comes up with different solutions so that they can attract top talent. They sell this job adword in the best way possible so that they get the associates that they want, like, the cream crowd essentially. And they come up with, really attractive compensation packages that, with their competitors, they're doing very well. So associates are basically then, they're just attracted to apply for the job role, and eventually if they're top talent, they're going to be hired. And also it's important to have proper onboarding programs and mentorship programs. So onboarding program would essentially be probably 1.5 to 2 weeks. It would look at explaining the associate the entire business plan, like the entire business, and also the entire business's goals. So the associate essentially in that entire welcome week that we call it, is given different examples, is been trained well, is been shown what the organization does, and the different sectors in the organization. That's one of the onboarding programs. Also, there can be something known as a buddy. So in the organization, you might have one buddy, which probably is in your team, that shows you around the office, shows you where, you can find, where the canteen is, where you can find the coffee machines, like just shows you everything. That comes up as an onboarding program as well. And at the end of the onboarding program, essentially the associate's quite confident wherein they can freely be in the office. They know what the business structure is, and they know what is expected out of their job role. Whereas a mentorship program essentially is people or leaders at higher level in the organization can be mentors to you. You can have, weekly catch-ups or bi-weekly catch-ups with your mentor, wherein you're just talking about what your work is. Your mentor will guide you how you can push and do better, because they have already gone through that experience, because they've started from the scratch, right? They would have better suggestions on you to approach a specific situation, or they might have better suggestions for you to just improve your performance in the organization and how you can do it. My mentor, for example, gave me this really valuable feedback. She used to tell me that always value your personal connections. That's really important, because even though you're working in a professional environment, you are personally building a rapport with people you're working, right? So it's important to also keep in mind that it's not always just work, but it takes a minute to just ask someone that, how was your day? Or, how is it going? Or if you're struggling with something, how's your kid? Is your kid doing better? Like, it takes 2 minutes, but in that person's head, it's going to say that, okay, this person actually remembered. And, that builds a personal connection. So that was one of the suggestions my mentor had given me. Then employee engagement initiatives. So how you can drive employee engagement, different meetings, recognizing employee contributions, making sure that they are happy to do their job, because if they come to a stagnant position and, they're not been given different challenges, they are going to look at different ways to get that, and probably look at different jobs, okay, which is going to essentially increase turnover. Then training and development programs. Again, I spoke about this. There are different training and development programs. You can help to, just improve performance, but also look at the skills gap. If, you're in a position for 2 years and you're suddenly being promoted, but for that, you need to learn a software called, I don't know, say Power BI. Okay. So how you can look at sending them for a workshop, or like my company sent me for a workshop because I was promoted. So it was an ER issue workshop through CIPD. It was a 3-day workshop wherein what happened is they spoke about how different ER cases can be managed well, and how, in the organization you have conflict, and that was a good workshop essentially. So that's how you can look at, if there's a skill gap, how you can get your associate to just, cover that up and give them more responsibility. Then you can also come up with different training programs, mentorship opportunities, and e-learning programs, definitely self-explanatory. Then performance management systems. So there are so many systems that manage performance. We spoke about how there was a tracker that used to track your daily work, which essentially was not always the best way of tracking employee performance, right? But yeah, once you track performance and manage it, you can probably look at giving regular feedback, come up with, PDP plans or SMART goals. We spoke about what SMART goals are, and just giving them proper feedback for them to improve in their performance. Conflict resolution and employee relations. We have just spoken about conflict resolution in the previous lecture, how correct and effective conflict management is going to improve employee relations and performance in the end. So just clearly explain your associates throughout the process how you're going to approach it, right? Then an important work-life balance is really necessary, because if your employees are burning out, they are going to look at probably, looking at higher turnover as well. And I think I gave an example of a mental health program that one of the organizations I work for started. They had an app that had a set of counselors on it. And if you have any, you feel like you're anxious, you feel you're not doing well, you can just literally log into the app, book a session and have a virtual meeting with a counselor. Really important and helpful, actually. Then how you can measure the impact of HR solutions on KPIs. Again, we spoke about this, how different HR approaches can make a change to the performance or make a change to the output of an associate, which eventually would impact the business goals and business profits. So yeah, we spoke about different things that help in driving performance or an associate's performance, and how different challenges can, be managed better and also help to improve performance, overall employee performance. Then over here, we're going to talk about how provided justified HR solutions and recommendations for improving an organization employee relation strategy and practices in order to improve performance. Again, pretty similar to what we've spoken, how ER can shape the organization's performance. We can look at the current employee relationships landscape, which essentially mean that what is already happening with the existing employee relation strategy, and maybe how, we can change it, or looking at different methods to, get better data from your associates. I spoke about this already. Feedback, different performance matrices, how we can manage that. Then there are different challenges that come up in ER. Again, we've gone through this. There can be different issues that can come up with. Probably an associate doesn't trust the HR or the manager that well, because they feel that if they say something, that can be used against them. Then how different conflicts are managed, that basically has an impact on the organization's performance, and it would be a challenge. So it's important that you have proper communication and transparency. Definitely, we've done this. Good communication, effective communication is going to make sure that there are lesser challenges and everything's resolved in the start itself. You have to build trust. So obviously, trust is not a one-day thing. It comes with time. Also, working with the person, working with the leader, looking at how the leader functions also plays an important role in building trust. Employee involvement and participation. Again, really important for employees to be completely involved in their job role, be satisfied, and continuously participate with the organization. Only then they will look at pushing through for the organization's goals. Conflict resolution and mediation. Important to resolve conflict in the start itself so that it doesn't go out of proportion. And there are different strategies you can use to make sure that conflict is resolved. Employee well-being and work-life balance. Again, we spoke. It's important that your employees don't burn out. You're properly giving them, some rest time as well. They're taking their vacation leave. They're making sure that they're taking the days off and not just always working. Different wellness initiatives. Probably one of my organizations had a desk yoga session one day, literally a virtual session where you're sitting on your desk and you're doing yoga. Just one of the well-being initiatives, essentially. We're almost at the end of this session, by the way, guys. Then aligning employee relationships with organization goals. Very important to do that. Your ER cases, how you manage it, is also going to keep in mind that eventually what the organization's end goal is. I gave the example of the unethical ER case that was managed by my manager. But essentially, that helped in the organization's goals, because the goal of the organization was getting most of their associates, because they were on a headcount basis. They can't hire more people, so they have to make do with the people that they are allowed to have. Then measuring the impact of HR solutions. So again, it's important that if you're putting an HR solution or a resolution in place, we need to measure through feedback or surveys if that was helpful or not. And yeah, that's just important for HR to adapt continuously to the organization's goals as well. So we spoke about all of these points and how proper employee relations and proper, improvements to it is going to help in performance, and also make sure that there are not conflicts in the organization. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
Not from my side.
No, I have no questions.
No problem at all. So we're done with LO4 as well. So I'm going to end this lecture here. You guys have some extra time. For Monday's session, I'm going to keep that at 9 to 10. So I'm going to change that meeting through Zoom now. And you might not get a reminder or a message. Is that going to be fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So Monday, I'll see you at 9 to 10 London time. And yeah, have a nice weekend, guys. Have fun. Take care. Bye.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.